What is going down, squad? We got another State of the Franchise episode. We're streaming on Jason Aponte's channel, the SF Niners channel, and a bunch of cross different platforms. But we are here for another week to talk playoff football. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Cowboys game. We're going to talk about the Packers game. But Jason, is the rivalry back? Is it just like back? Like, is it full blown back? Do you feel like that?
We'll find out. The Cowboys probably won't make the playoffs next year because that's their MO. Or are you talking about the Packers?
I'm talking about the rivalry between the Cowboys and the 49ers.
Yeah, that would depend on whether the Cowboys do their thing of one really good year, make the playoffs, one and done, and then not make the playoffs the next year. Because I fully expect the 49ers to be back in the playoffs next year as well, too. So I hope it is. It would be really fun to be the thorn in their side at this point. But it's the 90s all over again. You literally take out Dallas. Now Green Bay is on the menu. The only other team that I could think of that I hated along the lines with those two were the New York Giants. So is there a way we can get the New York Giants in here somehow so we can finish this off and just like wash out all of the 90s rivals in one shot like that?
Absolutely. I that would be great, but it's been a lot of fun going into the week, obviously, and heading out of it. We got a lot of quotes, a lot of trash talk from fans. Obviously, the San Francisco 49ers fans showed up at AT&T and made their presence known. It was just a great atmosphere. What was your overall takeaway of the game? And all the dramatics and everything leading into it.
Thank God for that hot start because it allows you that margin of error towards the end of the game, but a little too close for comfort, but it doesn't really matter. The game ended in the way that we thought it would. Dallas, undisciplined, not physical, not coached well. All of those things came to the surface, and those were all things that weren't, in my opinion. That's just, what it was when it came to them, and it showed up at the right time. Shout out to Mike McCarthy. Shout out to not knowing the rules. I appreciate you guys because it could have been a lot worse if they would have known the rules.
What was your take on that last drive and the way everything went down, and kind of to extrapolate on Mike McCarthy not knowing the rules and the way everything works, Dak Prescott not handing the ball off to the referee? But what was your thought before that when you saw the Cowboys slowly creeping back into the game? They had 34 seconds left on the clock and they started driving. What were you thinking at that point?
I didn't understand why they weren't playing boundary like they were at the end. I didn't understand that portion of it because you should have been doing that in the first place.
Why they got into it a little later.
Yeah, they get into it later on, but it's why? You should have already been on that. The whole idea, the only way that they could move the ball quickly and that fast with losing that little bit of time was that way. You could let them complete whatever it is in the middle of the field they want, but rally to the ball. It took a little while for that to get there, but yeah, it just goes to show you that they're not coached. They're not coached in the specifics, in the intricacies. The football IQ is not really that high. You cannot spot your own football. You have to hand it off to the referee and allow him to spot it because they tried to spot themselves 4 extra yards when he started his slide way before that. So that's why you do not allow players to spot the football. Shout out to them for not practicing it. Shout out to them for not knowing because it definitely helped the 49ers win.
Absolutely. Would you say that a lot of the penalties that the Cowboys had, would you attribute that to coaching or just poor execution?
Yes. And here's the thing.
Yes.
Allow me to use an old man coach cliche. You're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. And it's on you. And I don't know what's worse.
I like that.
But, for them to complain about the refs, what are you complaining about? False start is false start. Throwing linemen to the ground is throwing linemen to the ground. Right. These aren't judgment calls. They weren't PIs. They weren't, borderline calls. It's literally the ref is looking at you and penalized. And all season, they were the most penalized team. So don't cry now. You've been undisciplined. You've been like that, not coached well. So, now all of a sudden it's the ref's fault? Come on, man. Those were not 50-50 calls. Those were not judgment calls. They were literally pre-snap penalties and egregious calls that were right there in front of the ref. I don't understand it.
Absolutely. HR says one side effect of the 49ers making the playoffs is we get playoff Aponte, which has been a treat. Really enjoy your energy and insight. And it looks like HR smoking on that cheese pack. We're still smoking on that Dallas pack. And we're gonna keep chiefing on that. We're gonna keep chiefing on that Dallas pack.
Somebody open a window in here.
I know it's getting dusty in here.
My man, though.
But we are blessed that the 49ers won. We get to do a State of the Franchise episode. It's our first playoff State of the Franchise. It's great, man. So leading into that game and everything going into it, what was your takeaway from, the rushing attack from the 49ers? Elijah Mitchell put up 27 carries for 96 yards and a touchdown. And of course, Deebo Samuel went off for 10 carries and 72 yards and a touchdown. What was your thought on the 49ers rushing attack going into that game?
Well, they started fast, and the first drive set the tone. Basically, let the Cowboys know, we heard everything that you said all week. You're not built like that. We know you're not built like that. There's nothing you can do about this either. But at certain spots, I kind of wish that Kyle would have stuck with it a little bit more. I know that he gets those looks that he likes to throw the ball out of, and those are the right way, the right way to do it. But if they're able to execute one more drive that's a little bit longer, keep the chains moving, at least a few more first downs, then that game doesn't get nearly as close as it does. But the running game is the litmus test in the beginning of the game. And if you're not responding well to it early on to the script, you're just going to get gashed and gashed more, because Kyle is going to, pick up on what other things you're doing and hit you from there as well too. So it's really just to see where you're at. That's the jab. But they went down on the first jab. Already. Micah Parsons was getting wiped out by Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle. Yeah, the bullies get bullied where you're from. Well, you ain't a bully then. So I guess that's not it doesn't apply to you, bro. But it's a good thing that rushing attack is there, because it does wear down defenses. It does wear down psyche, right? This is another thing I think we talked about on here. Imagine being on defense, knowing they're going to run the ball here. They're going to run the ball here. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can be in the right spot. You can be, following your assignment. You could read your keys perfectly and have a guy either run right through you or run right by you, because of the way that this offense has these little intricacies that they're adding as the season goes along, as the playoffs go along. So the rushing attack is the tone setter for this team. And if you allow them to get out of the gates the way the 49ers did, God help them that those other drives didn't turn into touchdowns and they were field goals. If those turn into touchdowns, this game is way earlier. It's done. They abandoned the run. They wanted to throw the ball. That's exactly what the 49ers want to do. And if, that Aiyuk throw gets hit, then we're talking about a completely done deal game or whatever. But I'm not here to harp on the negative. It's just, again, the running game is where you can put yourself in a position where if something does happen in the second half like this, where things don't necessarily go your way, you still have that margin of error there because of how far ahead you push the score and the team's mindset away from you.
100%. And if you go back and you watch that first drive from Kyle Shanahan and the entire offense, they were in their bag. Dallas had no answer. It was just they were getting them off leverage on every snap with pre-snap motion and all the crazy stuff that they do in the run game. It was a lot of fun to watch. But speaking of smoking on that Parsons swinging on a Aiyuk pack from Justin, what did you see on that particular play and Parsons overall in the game? Obviously the play that we're talking about is the Elijah Mitchell touchdown. Aiyuk had that great seal block and Parsons didn't like it. And he took a little swing on our boy Aiyuk. What did you see from Parsons on that play and overall in the overall game? Because he made a lot of noise with that bullies get bullied comment.
When you don't like it getting blocked? Oh no, poor baby.
Poor boy.
I see you swinging at a wide receiver. You getting wiped out by a wide receiver?
No, look, feels bad, man.
Hey, that's your business. You probably shouldn't have said anything. Probably nobody would leave. Everybody would have left you alone. Other than that, though, he had a pretty okay game. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. He played fine. But it's just a mindset that they don't have. That's why when he came out with that comment, that's the guy who hopes that he yells really loud in your face and acts crazy, and you don't want to fight just because you're like, oh, this guy's crazy. But deep down, you know that guy isn't built like that, right? The loud one is trying to scare you off with his tactics. Yeah. He's waving his arms. He's I'm crazy, man. You don't want
trying to get in your head before you even took a snap.
Right. You don't want this. If it's a fight, you don't want this. I'm crazy. Yeah. And the guy who's calm is standing there looking at you like, because he's about that action and he's not talking about it. So for me, that felt like them trying to say, we're not going to get bullied. We're tough. Nah, bro. And that's on the first drive. If you're already out of your element, that's it. You're lost. You're not going to be able to snap back in. And it only gets worse as the game goes along. The 49ers don't get less physical, right? You wear down. They don't wear down. And that's the problem, is that he, I guess, assumed whatever it was in his head that he could say whatever he wants and it would amp everybody up. But you really had to know deep down in your heart that you guys were going to be pushed around like you were in this game. And unfortunately, right away, he found out and he didn't like it. And it just set the tone for the rest of the game. The same thing like DeMarcus Lawrence, right? Mm-hmm. Just grabbing Brunskill and throwing him to the ground. What happened, bro? Like, what was that? A football move? Like, what, like,
hey, Brunskill frustrates these D tackles, man.
Dude, that's on you. And that's just a mindset. So again, coaching, mindset, they're not built like that. And then all of those things that they were saying throughout the week was really to just maybe hope that the 49ers would say, oh no, Michael Parsons said the bullies get bullied. Nah, Zach Randolph said that and he actually executes it. So it's not really you. So the 49ers were never fazed by that and they wanted to show right off the bat. So Michael Parsons was frustrated right there on that first drive. And I feel like it took them and him out of the game for a large portion because they were tired of getting pushed around.
Absolutely. And it really did feel like the 49ers controlled that game early and often, especially with the run game, the things that we're talking about, the play actions off the run game. They just really had them out of sorts, but we ran into those situations where they just were unable to convert third downs in the red zone and then ultimately complete for the scores. You touched on it earlier. What would you contribute that to? Like, why couldn't they actually get it punched in? Now, on the other hand, Robbie Gould, hey, he was making kicks. He was doing his thing, and he got us a good amount of points on the board that we needed. But
250-yarders.
Obviously, we know in the playoffs, the margin of error is paper thin. So what do you think was going on there with why they couldn't punch it in? And do you think that could be a potential issue traveling to Lambeau and having to go up against a really solid offense in Aaron Rodgers and the Packers?
Yeah, it's not fair for you to ask your defense to do, basically things that they've done all year, right? For a large portion of the year, right? But field goals are not going to get it done against the Packers. The Dallas Cowboys were completely out of sorts on offense. I believe it took them like into the second quarter before they got their first down. They weren't running the ball at all. So, you'll live with it there and you'll take your points and that's fine, especially because, from 50 yards out, that's not really an optimal spot for them to go for it, especially when you consider down the distance. But 50 yards out of Robbie Gould is making them good. That's great. You need points to continue to stack, and they needed every point necessary, right? They won by 6. So, but it's not going to fly, I don't think, in Green Bay. In Green Bay, you gotta have those long sustaining drives, and you got to put 7 because the Packers don't need long sustaining drives. Like, that's not really their thing. Like, that's not what they want to do. They can strike back really quickly. So you could hold the ball for 8 minutes, 9 minutes, get 3, and then Aaron Rodgers can go down the field 4 plays and score 7 points, and now you're down 7-3. And it's like, okay, you're dominating time of possession, but they hit back fast. So you have to continue to put those on the board. I know that's not – it's easier said than done, right? Like, if everybody had their way, they would score every touchdown. But I just feel like as the games get bigger, you are going to need to put those points up on the board because you can't expect your defense to be as lights out as the 49ers have been, especially since we don't know what's going on right now with Warner or Bosa going into this game.
Absolutely. And when we go back to the NFC Championship game, one of the reasons why we ran the Packers out the stadium is because Mostert was hitting. He was scoring touchdowns, and they just could not recover, got him out of sorts early. And the 49ers not scoring touchdowns in that first half, other than the first one, it just kept them around. It's something that we've talked about quite a bit throughout the year, the 49ers letting teams hang around. Do you think that could be another issue that we run into against the Packers? How do you not – is there a mentality change, or how do you go about a situation where it seemingly feels like this team has a hard time closing out wins when they have a decent cushion on the other team? What do you think that's about?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a week-to-week thing. I wouldn't want to make any sweeping I guess
Fair.
comments based on all of them. Week to week, it would be different, right? Some games in the fourth quarter, they don't really need anything like that. Like everybody has been running with that Jimmy Garoppolo fourth quarter stats thing, but when you look at it, there's only 1 loss in there, and there's 3 wins, and 2 of those wins he didn't have to do a thing in the fourth quarter. right? Like he didn't have to do a thing in those games in the playoffs,
Yeah.
right? Against the Vikings and the Packers. So that you
Mhm.
throw those two out. Obviously, the one that's hurtful is the Super Bowl one, and obviously you hope that he would have made a play in that game. But a lot of players didn't make plays in that fourth quarter, so that contributed to that. And then we had this Dallas game where he didn't necessarily throw the ball well, but they got the win. So I feel like that's a little bit. That stat is at least it's eye catching because you look at it and you're like, oh my god, in the fourth quarter this is bad. But when you add the context to it, really isn't that bad when you really think about it. Sure, he didn't have a great performance in the Super Bowl. Sure, he didn't really have a great performance in the Cowboys game. But those other two games, he wasn't needed. Those games were over with. So I don't know what it is. I'm not going to attribute it all to the quarterback, and it's not really that. But defenses, when you're on the field a bunch, it's harder and harder to continue to get stops. And that's the thing is, yes, having a top 5 defense like the 49ers do is great to rely on those things. But you don't always want to rely on them because as the games get bigger and the quarterbacks get better, those guys take advantage of those sort of things. So it's a little bit of both, man. It's real. It's not one or the other. And I think week to week, different games will tell you a different story as to why the 49ers have trouble closing things out. One week you could say, hey, the offense didn't close it out. One week you could say, hey, the defense didn't finish it out. Or one week you could say, man, the special teams is making this really hard to close out. Like it's always different things for different games. So there is no one real problem. I think it's week to week when you evaluate these games that you'll find these issues.
Absolutely. I agree. There's not one particular thing that you can pinpoint. If anything, it's just like, it's almost like a mentality thing. It's almost like a situation where they've been in that situation a bunch of times. And it's like, when you get insecure about something, sometimes you almost manifest like that insecurity onto you. It kind of feels like that in a certain sense, but hopefully that's something that they grow out of. Obviously, we've seen them have to put themselves in that situation and then claw their way out of it. And they've been successful a lot of the time. So hopefully they can keep it up moving forward. But let's focus on a specific matchup from that Cowboys game. Talk to me about what you saw from Brandon Aiyuk versus all-pro cornerback Trayvon Diggs.
Boots got smoked. I like to make a lot of jokes on Twitter. I posted that Adrian Broner meme. He got his ass cooked. He got cooked, man. He got cooked, and
I'm getting my ass cooked.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
I'm getting cooked.
No, but Aiyuk's a baller, man. And on that blaze out route, yes, guys, let me put this to rest. That's not a post corner. He flattened the route perfectly. It's a blaze out. He ran it perfectly. It just got missed. But if that gets hit, then Aiyuk's number is sore because he's got nothing but green grass in front of him, man. That's the thing, though. Is that shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody who has actually watched the Cowboys play or viewed Trevon Diggs' season. 11 interceptions. Amazing, right? But the most yards given up by anybody either. So he's very boom or bust. A lot of people refer to him as the Jameis Winston of cornerbacks. And that's kind of fair. I would like to say that he's a little bit more like Marcus Peters. Takes his gambles. When he hits, they're big. But when he misses, they're big. And look, it's what it is. He had a great year. But Brandon Aiyuk was doing Brandon Aiyuk things against him. And if you notice, that's kind of how it went with Trevon Diggs. He just made big plays when he had a chance to. And again, I'll put it to you like this. Let's just say Trevon Diggs gives up a 20-yard catch and a 40-yard catch on the same drive, right? And now his team is backed up trying to stop somebody in the red zone, but he intercepts the pass at the 2 and takes it to the crib. Are you upset that he gave up 40 and 20, or are you just happy that he took the interception? So it's give and take. And it's always been that with Trevon Diggs all year. It's like you'll take the yards and all those things, but he'll turn the ball over for you in a crucial moment. So it's give and take when it comes to that.
Is Josh Norman the poor man's Trayvon Diggs?
No. No, even the punters are cooking him now, man. What the hell's going on?
Oh my goodness, dude. We've been talking about that all year nonstop. Just like, what is going on with Josh Norman? Like, what?
It's like he doesn't care. They're like, hey, you're gunner on this one. What? Play center field? I got you, bro.
Yeah, okay, run a straight line. I could do that.
Oh, all right,
not touch anyone. I'm really good at doing that.
What'd you say, coach? Just run straight back and not cover anybody? Got it, thanks. Kyle's probably just like, This guy didn't listen to me, man.
Oh, man, we knew it was coming, and it continues to rear its ugly head. Obviously, I wonder if we're going to see a change there because Richard Hightower came out yesterday and said straight up, oh, the guy just ran a better route on him. But if you go back, you watch the tape, it's mental error. It's not knowing your assignment, not paying attention, not being aware.
He knows the assignment. He just
ran away.
As usual, what we've been yelling about with Josh Norman all year. Hey, bro, this is a fireman zone. Wait, what? Play it like fireman zone blitz. Oh, wait, let's play it like zone and let's get cooked over the top. Wait, I need to pass this off with K1 Williams? Nah, just let that guy run behind me. Like, it's all year. This man has been blowing assignment year after year, and I mean, week after week. And Kyle Shanahan is just like, man, I don't want to say nothing to him, man. You say something. You say something, man. I don't want to tell him. But if it's somebody else, like Brandon Aiyuk's not running fast enough in practice, get your ass off the field, Brandon. But like,
you're in the doghouse.
Get him in the doghouse. But Josh Norman can literally say, hey, man, we're just running man here. What's that, cover 2 zone? Got it, coach. Hey, man. Hey, man, say something. You tell him. No, you tell him. No, you tell him. Kyle, talk to him.
Oh, my goodness. It has been quite the show. Obviously, what we talked about with Josh Norman, right? It was like, oh, he's got 7 turnovers. He's leading the league in turnovers, or forced fumbles, I should say. And that was like his one redeeming quality. But I think you said it on the State of the Franchise show. You said, well, what's going to happen when he stops forcing fumbles? And that's what he has stopped. But the coverage ability, it's transferring to punt team. Like I mean, I get it. He's a starter. He probably has that starting mentality, that ego, that cornerbacks have to have and play with. And when you get demoted and shoved on the special teams, how much do you really care at that point? It doesn't look like Josh cares a whole ton because he's not really doing his job. At least it doesn't seem like that. But that was
mentality. If he was really about the team, then he would try to help as much as he can because you have a chance. If he is in position and they try to run that fake punt and he gets a PBU or something like that, or he intercepts the pass, everybody would say, "Great job, buddy." Like nobody would say, "Oh, finally," right? Like you have every time that you're on the field, you have a chance to change how we talk about you. But when you continue to perpetuate the things that we know about you in terms of you just not caring about your assignments, and then you go out there for the one snap and get beat when literally every single person in America knew it was going to be a fake punt. Even the people doing the Nickelodeon broadcast knew it was going to be a fake punt. It's like, dude, what the hell are you doing out there, dude? Like, I don't get it. Like, I get you're an NFL player. I'm a nobody, but you're still just ignoring everything that you're supposed to be doing. And I really have I have no reason for why this has been allowed to continue because it's been happening since he's been out there for long extended periods of time.
Yeah, dude, it's been a head scratcher. Obviously, he continues to kind of show up in the wrong moments. We would love to see Josh Norman show up in the right moments, but that would mean you have to doing your job and playing your assignments and doing those kinds of things, which is just something he's seemingly had a hard time doing. But let's move off Josh Norman. But this has been a topic on Twitter, wherever. Special teams. What are you seeing from special teams? Is that going to be a potential situation that could harm them in the future, maybe against the Packers? Is this coaching related? Is it just the constant swap of fringe players on the unit? What do you think this is about?
I mean, when it's happening over and over, it's a trend, right?
Yes.
It's not something that's a small sample size. The roughing the kicker, the fake punt, the Seattle fake punt. I haven't seen a return on any sort of punt in who knows how long. Like literally today is the anniversary of the NFC Championship game from 2019, right? Against the Packers. And I watched the highlights and Richie James actually returned a punt in that game for 30 yards. And I was like, man, I can't remember the last time I saw anything like that in how long. So, yeah, I'm going to blame it on
Trent
coaching.
Taylor 2017.
Right. So, yeah, I'm going to blame it on coaching because why is it that you're always caught off guard? Why is it that your guys are never in the right spot? Why is it that your guys are undisciplined? The same things that I take the Cowboys to task for, I have to take this team to task for. So, Richard Hightower, you've got to answer for this, dude, because if this pops his head up now, 49er fans know damn well how hard it is to swallow a loss after it comes down to special teams.
Blunders.
Yes. And at least in that instance, which I'm not going to – I mean, I've already brought it up, but I'm not going to go into detail about.
We know what you're
In that
talking about.
in that instance, it was one guy. It wasn't it wasn't the entire unit that was
Right.
so that's the portion that makes me nervous is you don't make tackles on certain things, you extend drives, you give them another chance on a roughing the kicker, like you give those to Aaron Rodgers and you're not getting away with that. Like those are the things that you need to clean up. Thank God they played Dallas this week because they were allowed to make so many of these errors and not have it come back. But special teams has got to get better and it's too long of a sample size to say that it can get better. It just, you know what it needs to do? It just needs to just be steady. Just don't do anything wrong. Like net zero right now as a
Right.
special team. What I mean by that is don't make anything that is going to help the team, obviously, but don't do anything to cost the team. Like we'll just take zero at this point. We will take you catching the ball and just saying that's it, fair catch. We will take you covering and tackling. That's it. Nothing crazy. We don't need punt returns. We don't need kickoff returns. We don't need block punts. We need a net zero. We need you to not have any effect on this game. You cannot negatively affect this game. And if you don't positively affect it, that's fine too, as long as you're not costing this team.
Absolutely. And I mean, when you look at even Kyle Shanahan said it at the podium. He said, I just don't want to lose the game on special teams. That's he didn't say anything else. I just don't want to lose it on special teams. And we saw two situations on special teams that could have lost it. Now, obviously, we're not talking about the entire team's unit. Robbie Gould has been pretty damn good these last 2 weeks. Obviously, Juice stepping in last week, Tabor Pepper in his snaps. We'll give those guys credit when it's deserved, but those guys have been around. They've been here, kicking, field goals, and that operation that comes with the territory. It's the schematic stuff from the punt like coverages and the way they do their alignments and playing assignment sound is where it is coming to be a little bit of an issue. And I'll be the first to defend a coach and talk about how special teams is specifically difficult because you're constantly just being rotating. It's an open door. It's like that Simpsons meme where the old man comes in, walks in, puts his hat on the thing and walks back out. You're just constantly dealing with rotating personnel. Josh Norman, perfect example. He hasn't played special teams all year. He probably hasn't played special teams the majority of his career. And then in a playoff game, he's being asked and it's Josh Norman. And I could tell Hightower was pissed yesterday when talking about it.
You know why? Because he told him, just stand over in front of the other guy. Don't let him catch a pass. And he was like, what? Run to the center of the field, coach? Got you. Heard you.
Okay, I'm going to do the opposite of what you're going to say. But
maybe that's it. Maybe that's what they need to do. Hey, Josh Norman, what we want you to do is just run around in a circle and not cover anybody. He's going to be like, what? Man up my guy? Got it.
Normally, I'm not for slander of really anyone, but I love Josh Norman slander. I don't know what it is. Something about it just makes me feel better about the situation. But overall, I got the sense from Hightower that he knows. I think this could be his last. We know there's always someone on the chopping block in certain instances, and if there has to be someone, it could be Hightower. I'm not one to call for someone's job, but just kind of looking ahead, like if the rubber meets the road, he could find him. Like they could just make a change because based on his demeanor, from watching him yesterday at the podium, he just seemed like he knew. Like he was just like he's had a pretty good vibe most of the year, but this was a press conference where it just looked like it was getting to him. So we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, against the Packers. Want to play a clean game from special teams, and that's really all it comes down to. But let's talk about first. Actually, I'll ask you this question first, and then we'll transition into what based on the answer. Who was your MVP of the game?
That young fellow who got to interview Deebo Samuel at the end of the game.
Good answer.
That was honestly. All right, I'm gonna talk about real football, but I just want to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
When I was a kid, that was the type of shit I always wanted to do, and that kid nailed it. And he's on his way. So I'm so happy that there's a way for kids to do this and to be excited about doing this, right? Because it is a new age where me and you can start this up this way, but him being able to handle that moment with that energy, ask his questions clearly, was very respectful. I thought that was great. And also shout out to Deebo Samuel, man. He's like the nicest guy in the world too, like for him to sit there and talk. But the MVP of this game is Deebo Samuel. It's Deebo Samuel, right? Interception from KK Williams, who was wearing an aggressively Northern New Jersey fit to the game. I knew he was about his business as soon as he pulled up. Remember, I was telling you about that, Brad.
You were telling me about that. I didn't see it, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, Jason was 100% right.
Bro, if he's pulling up in the Yankee fitted with the jean jacket and the construction Air Force Ones, it's go time. That is Patterson, New Jersey 2AT right there. I knew when I saw his fit, I was like, this man's on go mode. I know for a fact. Yeah, and what happened? Interception, he was ready to go. But right after that, right? Deebo Samuel looking at Kyle Shanahan and saying, let's go. Give me the ball. And he walks in, and we heard the sound bites. He walks into the huddle and he says, let's put it in the box, boys. And right there, he's behind a bunch of guys, and he just cuts it back. And the acceleration it's like watching a 10th grader play football against 4th graders. You can literally have 3 guys that are coming right towards you, but I'm faster than all of you, and I'm going to run right through all of you guys and score a touchdown. It's Deebo Samuel. Every time they need a play, every time they need something big, it is it. Yeah, Warren, you know that fit when you saw it. When he pulled up, I was like, oh my God, man. I was like, this man is listening to Jersey Club in his headphones. I know exactly what is happening right now, man. I know exactly where this man's head is at right now. When that Yankee fit and that jean jacket come on, when you throw in those construction Air Force Ones, the only way he could have kept it more gully was wearing Timbs or ACGs. But he pulled up with the construction Air Force Ones, and I knew for a fact K1 was on go time. I knew what type of time he was on at that time. But it is Deebo Samuel, man. He's the MVP, man. Where would this team be without him? Where would this team be without him? Warren knows the vibes, though. He definitely knows the vibes.
Dude, I love that you called it, too. I love that obviously, when you're from a certain area, there's a certain mindset that comes along with it. Obviously, I'm out in the Bay, right. So, we have a Bay vibe out here. But obviously, you got big New Jersey vibes, and KK came out balling. Obviously, that interception was huge because it was actually, let's talk about that sequence. It was DJ Jones sack, KK interception, the now infamous Deebo Samuel play. Hey, Kyle, give me the ball. Let me take care of this.
I feel special.
Because it just like Deebo, he doesn't give a damn, right? He just wants to win. And when he's telling Kyle, give me the freaking ball, like, you just know what he's about. He's about that business. Talk about that sequence.
That just feels like one of those moments, right? That, when teams put together their DVD for their championship run, that they'll look at like, oh, that was a turning point. That's why, all right, I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's something going on here. There is something going on, right? From the way that this team got into this game, for them to win in Dallas and now have a chance to be in the spot that they're in, which could possibly set up either a rematch with the Rams, or what the NFL absolutely wants, Brady versus Garoppolo in the NFC Championship game.
Boy.
Something's going on. And I think that moment right there is going to be a moment that we talk about for a long time, especially if this team wins this game against the Packers, which I believe they will. Spoiler alert. But yeah, that felt different, right? And Sam Houston of KMBR, he does great work with the video stuff. He caught this really quickly because it happened over press conferences. So Deebo's talking about it. He said, after the interception, I looked at Kyle and I said, let's go. Then they cut to Jimmy Garoppolo, and he said, I looked at Deebo, and he was talking to Kyle, and he told him, give me the damn ball. And then Kyle said, I think he mouthed something, and it sounded something like, it was like, it sounded like, I read his mouth and it said, get me the ball. So it's nice. But I love
the Kyle impressions, man. They're so on point.
But it's so good that all 3 of those guys told the same story the same way. So that really just shows you right there that that's not fabricated in any way. And then when you watch the Inside the NFL clip of it, because they have them mic'd up for a lot longer, you heard him literally, like, he said, let's go. And then he got to the end zone. He got to the huddle, and he told them all, let's put it in the box. And then he does it immediately. Like, imagine saying those things. And that's like Babe Ruth calling his shot type stuff, man. It's just one of those special moments that it feels different. This feels different right now. And that's one of those moments that we'll look back and be like, bro, remember that in that game? Like, Deebo's different, man. What a year from him.
Deebo is having a phenomenal year, and especially after that game, which, what did they say? It was like the most highest watched wild card game.
It was the 4th highest watch from 1995, but this was the high. This one is the highest watched wild card game. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And with that, obviously, with Deebo Samuel being the wide receiver threat, the rushing threat, again, what you just talked about, it really feels like Deebo Samuel is trending towards being one of the most popular players in the entire NFL, doesn't it?
Yeah, and right now, I mean, oh goodness gracious, for the game before it, I believe, the Bengals game, was it? Jamar Chase took one jet sweep, and they were like, "Wow, they love to use him like they do Deebo Samuel." No, they
I
don't.
remember hearing that.
No, they don't.
Like,
What are you
no,
lying about? No, they
not even
don't at
close.
all. Like, no, 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 no. So
I saw that.
the
I had the
effect
same
is
thought process.
right. The effect is happening across the league because you see more people trying to find their Deebo Samuel. But at the same time, that's a lazy analysis, man. For real. They
Yeah.
really like to use him like that. Yeah, his 4 carries the entire year really speaks to how they really wanted to use him like Deebo Samuel. Like these announcers. So it goes to show you the impact he's having because as soon as one player runs a jet sweep, automatically they're Deebo Samuel now.
I mean, we saw his rookie year when he obviously came on late in the playoffs, obviously the Super Bowl. It felt like every other draft segment was named Finding Debo. Like they just loved using it. And that was the whole thought process going into that 2020 draft was who's going to find the next Debo? Obviously, Debo had kind of a slower 2020 with the injury, started out with a broken foot, didn't really was able to get up to speed ever. He had a couple good games here or there, but a lot of people, including myself, I will admit it, I fell asleep on Debo a little bit. And he has proved every single person wrong. And knowing what I know about Debo, I think he took all that personally. I
Oh
think
yeah.
he took all that real personally. I think he even put out a post about like, I remember when y'all sleeping on me, something like that. I
Yeah.
think he really does take that personally. And I think we're seeing him play with that chip on his shoulder, right?
Yeah, and extension of the run game, can't run routes down the field, all of those things. He heard it all. He heard all of those things, and we saw it in camp. He looked like a different man, and it just translated right away, man. Like he just looked different. He was the best player on the field every single day that we were there.
Absolutely. And his emergence has been absolutely phenomenal. Um, let's switch gears a little bit to the defensive side. Uh, how scary was the Nick Bosa, Fred Warner situation?
Scary, very scary, but it's a good thing that Greenlaw's around because then you can run him and Aziz, in pinches. And in the second half, the 49ers pressured Dak Prescott on 48% of his dropbacks. That is nearly half. Without Nick Bosa, half of the time that Dak Prescott dropped back, he was hit with a pressure. Jordan Willis, Arden Key, Eric Armstead, DJ Jones, balling. Ebukam, balling. This
I
right now,
think
this
Kevin
pass rush,
Givens was one of
Kevin
the highest
Givens.
graded players on the entire defense per
Yep,
PFF.
yep.
It's
It's
our narrative.
It's yes, for sure. There you go. Boom. I love that. I love that. But it's amazing that they're able to get all this while Bosa's not on the field, and it just speaks to where this pass rush is. And Tyron Smith, who is a Hall of Famer,
Yes, he
getting
is.
worked, getting worked,
Yes.
absolutely worked. I get where he's
Yes.
at in his career. He's still no,
Yes.
he's no scrub, none.
No scrub.
Um, he was getting worked, and they knew the one play that I'm going to point to as a little bit of a growth for D'Amico Ryans is Nick Bosa's sack. He knew that Bosa was going to get chipped there, so he ran him on a stunt, which got him free and immediately got him right in there for Dak. Again, that is D'Amico being ahead of the game right there and understanding what he's seeing, what they're trying to do. Okay, my guy's getting chipped. Cool. Then I got to get him involved in different ways and move him, and it worked to perfection. So when you line up the way that D'Amico has been calling, when you line up how this front line has been looking, when Chris Kosuric is who he is, and he's just the guy that I'm going to keep pounding the table for, man. He's so good, and he gets so much from all of these guys. And again, the 49ers continue to bet on traits. Omenihu, again, big in this game, man. It's all these guys that you basically got for nothing, right? You got Arden Key for nothing. You got Omenihu for nothing. You got Jordan Willis for nothing. All of these guys had high spark scores and are athletic guys. If you're able to get that out of them, it's starting to feel like how we felt it was going to be earlier in the season with this defensive line, where we said obviously it won't be as top heavy as 2019 because you can't compare with Buckner, Armstead, Ford, and Bosa, but it is deeper. And what that means is that you have fresh legs all game, and you have guys that just aren't there to be bodies. They're actually in the water like hunting. So that's the thing is they are deeper than they were in 2019. And without Nick Bosa, that was such a showing, man. And it's just a testament to D'Amico, Chris Kosuric, and those guys on that line, man. They're doing a phenomenal job, man. You really can't ask for anything more than that.
Absolutely. I think Jordan Elliott, our boy Splash Cousin, tweeted out, what did they trade for him? A 6th-round pick
Yeah.
for Charles Omenihu. Omenihu came away with a sack and a half. Obviously, the biggest play for him was when Dak tried to escape the pocket and he escaped right into Charles, and Charles lit his ass up after beating a Hall of Fame left tackle over the top. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really fun to see because Eric Armstead has been having quietly, again, another tip in the cap for Jordan Elliott, our homie, who's been champion Eric Armstead since the first game of the year. He's having a phenomenal game. The defensive line continues to thrive, and I love your points about the coaching with Chris Korsek, arguably one of the most, underrated. He's not underrated anymore. People know who Chris Korsek is. But talk about the job that D'Amico Ryans is doing, and also transfer that into, do you think he is going to get a head coaching job this year?
Well, Armstead's having a better year than Buckner as well too. Oops, guys. Sorry,
Ooh,
didn't mean to
boom,
step on
roasted.
didn't mean to step on your narrative real quick there, but sorry. D'Amico Ryans is incredible, but he's not going to get a head coaching job this year. Next year he
Okay,
will.
I hope so.
Yeah, next year he will,
I hope
and
so.
he should probably get a job this year, right? Because in his first year again, he's better than Robert Saleh was. Now the question becomes, and this was something that we talked about at the post game show. In year one, D'Amico Ryans is better than Robert Saleh. No questions asked. None. But this is a good question, and I'll throw it back to you. So let's start this debate because Andrew brought it up, and I felt like I wanted to be level-headed, so I didn't have a take for it right then. Is D'Amico Ryans better in year one than Saleh was in year 5?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yes. Because
Okay.
I believe that the success of the defense hinged a ton on D Ford, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, and DeForest. Did I say DeForest Buckner? The front four,
Mm.
the ability to only rush four, because when you look at the scheme from Robert Saleh, at least in my opinion, it was very vanilla. A lot of cover 2, cover 3, zone schemes, things like that. And if there was injuries, then we didn't have a ton of injuries that year in the 2019 season, but I just really felt like, and there's some metrics to back it up. When D Ford was on the field, that defense was dynamic because of how fast he was off the line of scrimmage, moving quarterbacks off his spot, and then the rest of the guys, Eric Armstead, DeForest, and Bosa, would just clean it up. And I really feel like that defense was so good in large part due to the defensive line and how dominant they were. Whereas I look at what D'Amico Ryans is doing, and I see a guy who didn't have Kinlaw, didn't have D Ford, didn't have Jason Barrett right off the bat. Those are 3 starters at each level. Or I'm sorry, also add Greenlaw into that mix. 4 starters. And so he has been constantly having to play this chess game. And that to me is a sign of amazing coaching. When you have what you have and you have to scheme around it. Again, we've seen how they were able to try to protect Ambry Thomas against the Bengals as best they could and things like that. And I just feel like that's the difference. I feel like Robert Saleh is a fantastic motivational leader, and he's really good at getting his guys going. But I think D'Amico, as a former linebacker, former just fantastic linebacker in this league, and just being a player, former player, being able to connect with your guys, understanding like he's in his bag this year. I mean, you talked about him being better than Robert Saleh, and but I'm looking at D'Amico Ryans. He's like better than half the defensive coordinators in the league right now. Like that's my view. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts?
No, and that's fair. I just think that the final year that Robert Saleh was here without Bosa and all of them, I felt that was his best coaching job because he didn't have that luxury
It's a good
anymore
point.
of the
It's a
4,
good
right?
point.
Like I felt
Yeah,
like that was a better coaching job than he had in 2019 for many of the reasons that you stated. In 2019, you can rush 4 and you have everybody. All you have to do is just play your assignments and you're good on the back end.
that's a good point.
He didn't really have all of that in 2020, and he also had to deal with trying to figure out how to stop mobile quarterbacks and he generated pressure and all that stuff. So I felt last year was his best year as a
That's a good
coordinator.
point.
But what D'Amico is doing right now in his first year on the fly during games. And specific game plan week to week changes. And that's something that is really, I'm impressed with, because they ran zone. I think it was like 78% of the time in this game against Dallas, right? They were not putting anybody in islands, and that's good. That's smart, because you want to have Dak, scan the field, try to go through progressions. You don't want to have obvious advantageous matchups where it's like, okay, this guy's on this guy, we're going to take a shot over here, right? So he did everything correctly, but that might not be the game plan going into Green Bay. That's probably not the game plan against the Rams, right? Like, so week to week, he's doing such a great job of being the chameleon. Let's just let it stick at this point. You guys got to start running with it. That's the name we're running with. Like, at this point, every week it's changing game to game, and he's doing a great job. I wasn't ready to say it right after the post-game show, but I think I am ready to say it right now that DeMeco Ryans is better than Robert Saleh at his job in year one than he was in year 5, even though I love the job that Saleh did there at the end. But he's doing an amazing job, and I think that a lot of people are just now getting to it, and that's fine, because certain games can skew your perception if you allow it to, right?
Everyone wanted to fire him after the Packers game.
Or that Arizona game, right? Even though that was just somebody. Oh, wait. Did Arizona collapse? Oh, man. Who could have seen that coming? All right, sorry. I just had to throw it out there real quick. Just for the Cliff is better than Kyle narrative, guys. I see you, and you're lucky I'm not. And you're lucky I'm not petty like that on Twitter, because I could just start going crazy on people and just being like, remember this? Is this you? But anyway, yeah, I think DeMeco Ryans is better than Robert Saleh. I just wanted to get my Arizona shot in there because they're frauds.
Absolutely. There are some press conferences going on, but we would actually implore you to stick around here and enjoy this conversation and then go watch the press conferences.
Yep.
Make sure you stick around. Also, too, make sure while you're here, if you are enjoying the conversations, we're dual streaming on Jason Aponte's channel, this one, and my channel. Make sure you like both videos. Go do that. Go do that. Oh, look at the GOAT. Don Burr, Jason and Brad, Bang Bang Lion Niner Gang. Hey, that's one of the first admissions that he's damn near in the Niner gang. I think he's coming around to it. I think he feels the love. And I think Don Burr's I think he's a silent 49er fan.
When we do our 30 for 30 episode where we wrap this entire season up, no matter how it goes,
I like that.
We have to tell the story of Don Burr, and it has to be a part of it. It has to be a part of this, right? Like it's good. Yes. What if I told you one Lions fan stuck around every 49ers stream because he's a real one?
Don Burr, the GOAT, the legend of
49ers Twitter.
Don Burr, man, dude is all over the place. We also got this one. From Justin, says my cousin sent me something saying the Raiders were interested in Mike McDaniel. I don't like that. I don't want Mike McDaniel to go anywhere. He's actually probably speaking right now at the podium. Do you think he has a potential of getting a head coaching job? Because based on social media, which we know can put a lot of pressure on coaches. Ask Jim Tom Sula. Ask what's his name over there with the Lions?
Dan Campbell.
Some press conferences can make or break a perception of what you are, even though, it's just you being you or whatever. And we've seen Mike McDaniels go lightweight, a little viral for some of his stuff. And you see a lot of people coming around to it. Obviously, a lot of 49er fans, if you ever drop into a YouTube chat when he's at the podium, a lot of people don't like him for whatever reason on our side.
Pretty toxic.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, seems like everyone else is, and we know. I think you and I understand how smart that man is. Do you think he could land a job somewhere else too? Is there a world where the 49ers lose Adam Peters, Rand, Mike McDaniel, and DeMeco Ryans in one offseason?
There's a world, yeah, that's a what if, but I don't want to live in that world. I think Adam Peters is gone, actually. I think the Giants are full court press on him, and they have been for a while, and I think that's very
second
smart.
Interview, right?
Yeah, and he's a finalist.
That's tough.
They're probably not going to let him leave the building, I think, at this point.
No, they're going to throw all the money at him.
With McDaniel, I think a lot of people are coming around to him because his press conferences aren't exactly viral, newsworthy. But when you listen to what he has to say and what he's saying, because someone asked him a question about why they run those tosses when they do, it's to create the perception of outside zone with those cutback lanes. And he talks about it like the small little details to create angles and how you can use all of that stuff against them. So I believe it was Andrew Hawkins who used to play with him, I think in Cleveland when he was there for a little while. He retweeted it and said, one of the smartest minds in the game. And that just goes to show you that press conferences are whatever. Like you can have guys who say all the right things but don't know a damn about X's and O's. You can have guys that are understated and don't really speak much. Like look at Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa barely speaks at these press conferences, but he's going to rip somebody's face off on the field. So who cares, right? But It's all about what you get done, right? Like but the press conferences can kind of make or break your perception off the rip, because you did see it with Dan Campbell. But I actually believe that what he did this year kind of dispelled that, because I actually think that he's somebody that team played hard for, and I'll give him that, and I'll eat crow on that one. But you know, the Phillies coach kind of had a bizarre press conference, and then you got guys like Joe Judge who get up in front of the press conference and they say those cliche things. We're a bunch of guys that are gonna be working, and all 52 we're all working over here, and we're building a winning culture. Meanwhile, you don't know a damn thing about X's and O's, and you have no idea what building a winning culture is like, right? Like I like anytime one of those guys gives one of those like bravado puff out his chest, we're gonna hit people and hit them again and then hit them again. It's like, dude, that wears out real fast when you walk in the locker room and people are like, bro, nobody knows you and you're not gonna be talking to us like that. So I think press conferences sometimes distort the public perception of you, but they also give you a little bit of insight to who you are if you actually listen to the right things and the things that they're saying.
Absolutely. And I think all we can speak for all 49er fans is we don't want to see any one of those guys leave. I think the importance from all of them who are interviewing, they're interviewing, and rightfully so, and they're obviously going to pick up steam the more and more that the 49ers continue to win and have success. And I heard Baldy say it. He said, if you're looking for a head coach, what you want is the 49ers run game. That's it. You just want the run game. And who is the mastermind behind that run game? Mike McDaniel. Also, Mike McDaniel, too, from what it sounds like, Kyle's a big, I think Kyle does like what he wants to do, but I think there's some credit that goes to the day-to-day operation inside a room or inside a front office or coaching staff, where you have to manage other coaches, you have to do schedules, you have to do the small things that no one thinks about in the day-to-day. But it sounds like Mike McDaniels handles it all. So he does feel like he would be a good candidate. Obviously, he's a little quirky, but he's very smart, man. Very smart.
Everybody's trying to duplicate the 49ers formula.
Yes.
Everywhere, right?
Yes.
Now Adam Peters wants to is hotly commodity, as a hot commodity, wants to be a GM. Everybody's looking for the next Shanahan so they can duplicate that run offense, right? And all those things. Everybody is now, the Shanahan offense is becoming the norm a little bit, in terms of now you're going to see more teams running more pre-snap motion, more outside zone, more cutback lanes on those pitches. Like that, all this stuff is becoming the norm now. It's a copycat league right now. Shanahan is, look, who are three guys that are still available right now to coach right now from the Shanahan tree? Shanahan, McVay, LaFleur. There's no, right.
True.
It's not a coincidence. And teams are trying to
find the league is off the Shanahan tree now.
Right. Trying to find the new Shanahan. And I think McDaniel is now, pressing in that direction.
Absolutely. Anthony C says the hate for McDaniels reminds me of the movie Moneyball. All the dinosaurs in the league are about to be hit by a comet. Times are changing. They are. And I think McDaniels is based on things I've seen him say and how he speaks about coaching from a philosophical standpoint, he cares about his players.
Oh, yeah.
And in today's age, you cannot have the old school mentality, my way or the highway. Obviously, I think Kyle gets, lumped in with that sometimes with his doghouse mentality, my way or the highway, right? But from what I've seen from McDaniel, is he is all about the players and collaborating with players on what works, what doesn't work, and what they should do. Actually, this hilarious quote just came out right now from Mike McDaniel at the podium. It's from Lombardi. He says NFL reporter Mike Jones just asked 49ers offensive Mike McDaniel a question in the press conference. Before Mike McDaniel started his answer, he blurted it out. Who? Mike Jones.
I love him. I love it. I
He's a man
love
of the
it.
people, guys.
I
Like, if
love
you
it.
don't like Mike McDaniel,
I
you need to
love it.
check yourself. You really need to check yourself. It's probably just because you're insecure about yourself and you want to take it out on someone else. So
281-330-8004. Hey yo.
the slap from
I
back
love
in
it.
the
I'm about to, yo,
day.
when I'm done, I'm about to go take a walk to Walgreens and I'm listening to Still Tipping as loud as I can, like out of my earpiece. Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness, that takes me back. Good
I
old
love it.
Mike Jones, and of course, Mike McDaniel doesn't skip a beat. So
I love it.
it's going to be interesting. We're gonna figure out what happens with all the coaching stuff, and that will be obviously an off-season conversation that we'll continue to have. But let's see. Let's get back onto the Cowboys game.
Mhm.
What did you let's talk about the Cowboys for a little bit, like, and how the defense responded to Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Clamp those dudes. Like, those guys were not able to do anything, made them one dimensional, and just put it all on Dak. Do you think that was a big part of the game plan going in?
Hell yeah. And when it's not working, Kellen Moore's going to go away from me. He sure did. Tony Pollard was actually much more impressive than Ezekiel Elliott was in this game, and he has
Yes,
been
he
for a
was.
large portion of this season. He just seems like he's shot out of a cannon. I don't know what's going on with Zeke. He doesn't look strong, fast. Like he looks like he's running in mud
He looks like
sometimes.
a shell of himself.
Yeah. And that's why, look, I'm not trying to take a victory lap on this because I hope he's fine and everything, but that's why people are hesitant to pay running backs. That's why you don't pay
Yeah,
them twice, right? This is exactly it. And that's why it's you burn them for 4
true.
years, 5 years. I feel bad because they take all that punishment and then they fall off a cliff without a
Yep,
moment's notice. But this
yep.
is one of your examples. Look, Christian McCaffrey still hasn't been able to be healthy since he got his second contract. Alvin Kamara was banged up this year. Derrick Henry even got hurt this year. So this is
Where's
why
Todd Gurley?
there you go. Like, and look, Dalvin Cook missed some games. It's like I get it, right? You have these
Yep.
studs, and you don't want to let them go, and they're such a vital portion of what you do. And it used to be that way. The Dallas Cowboys, whenever they don't go over 100 yards, they don't win games running the ball, and that's what you primarily knew them for years ago, right? Was being able to run the ball and having Dak, not really put too much on his plate. But when you become one dimensional, I understand that when I say that I want Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball more, that probably causes problems because he's probably the best thrower of the football in the world. But what I mean by that is it becomes easier for you to understand what you need to do on defense. You can get those guys to pin their ears back the entire time and you don't have to worry about the run. It puts them in a bad spot. I don't care that not that I don't care. I understand that he is the best. And Dak's one of the better throwers of the football in the league too as well. But it's very hard when you're predictable and everybody knows what's coming. It allows those guys to work up front. And when you don't have to worry about the run anymore, things become easier as a play caller in terms of how to limit that. So that's what I mean by that. So it seems like whenever it doesn't start to work, Kellen Moore just abandons it. And they only ran the ball, I believe, 21 times or something like that. That's not a recipe for anybody's success, especially
Zeke
when you look
carried
at
it 12 times. Tony Pollard had 4. Dak had
yeah.
4.
There you go. So 20 times, right? Like that's not a recipe for success. And if you are throwing the ball 20 times, you're either behind by a bunch or you're just cooking on offense and that's rarely the case. So it's the way to win. I mean, all of this stuff is so cliched and easy. Stop the run and make them throw the ball is pretty much how you would want to do it with any team, right? You want to make them one dimensional and you want to turn them into something that is easier for your defense to decipher. But for whatever reason, when Dallas gets pushed around and then that things aren't working, they go away from everything and things become chaos. And I think that just goes back to what we were talking about with coaching.
Absolutely. And coaching is very, very important. Quick question. Would you rather have Kellen Mond be the head coach or not Kellen Mond?
Not Kellen Mond.
Not Kellen Mond. Definitely not Kellen.
Not Kellen
God,
Mond.
what a slip there. Kellen Moore or Mike McDaniel? Just
For Dallas?
Just for whoever. If you were hiring a head coach, who would you hire? Mike McDaniel? I mean, they're both kind of quirky and awkward little guys. Obviously, Kellen Moore played quarterback, but who would you rather have?
Probably McDaniel because, Moore in the beginning of the year, he got a lot of his rep beating up on the NFC East, and they do have supreme weapons, right? CD, Gallup at times, Schultz is playing well, Cooper, right? Pollard was playing well before he got injured.
Even Cedric Wilson.
Right. And a lot of those guys were having big games against the NFC East, and everybody started to look at him like, oh, he's the new one. But Mike McDaniel's kind of been steady all year in terms of they've been one of the better offenses all year. They really haven't gone like, they don't go through up and down, right? Like they may not be ascending as quickly as you want in certain games, but they're always either flat or going up in the right direction, and they have been these last few weeks. So McDaniel's been hotter in terms of the way they're preparing that offense and what he's contributing. So I'm going to say McDaniel, and I'm going to be a homer. I don't care.
I like it. I'm going the same route. Exact same route. All right. I think it's time.
Uh-oh.
I think it's that time.
What's that time?
Let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay.
Let's talk about the quarterback play. Let's talk about the first half first, and then we'll transition to the second half. What did you see from first half Jimmy Garoppolo?
Operated the offense well, made some throws, very efficient. I don't know when this shoulder injury happened. Couldn't tell you. Probably not going to go back and look either, to be honest. Doesn't really matter at this point. But I don't know why whenever I say something that I'm about to say, it comes off as a diss. This is Jimmy. This is Jimmy. And I'm done trying to figure out, I'm done trying to yell things at the TV to help him because he doesn't listen and he can't hear me. But this is him. This is him. And I hate to say this, but the 49ers, whenever they go to play a game, or fans, let's just say fans, right? Like, I don't know I don't know if this is how it is inside the building, so I'm not going to speculate. But as fans, the one thing that's going into our mind, or going through our mind during the game, is which Jimmy's going to show up this game. Which Jimmy? There's Jimmy against
which one?
Right, there's Jimmy against Atlanta that doesn't turn the ball over and hits every single throw. There's Jimmy against the Rams that looks like, the first matchup that is, efficient, making throws. There's Jimmy in the second half against Tennessee. There's Jimmy from the first 3 quarters against Seattle. You don't know what you're going to get. And Here's the encouraging part, 49ers fans. If Jimmy Garoppolo has any sort of good game against the Packers, which I believe he will actually too. I'm going to jump out there because everybody's leaving him for dead right now. And this feels like just like the moment like the moment Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do something like he did against the Rams, like where everybody's just like, yo, I can't let this guy go, right? Like it's like that toxic relationship. It's like when they bring you flowers, they bring you the flowers at after an argument, and you're just like, man, I'm back. You got me. All right, you got me.
Oh, he's being sweet. All right.
Oh, there he is.
I'll let him
back. Like, so that's why I think, but here's the thing, 49ers fans, if Jimmy Garoppolo shows up, doesn't turn the ball over, right? And can just be efficient and just operate the offense in this game, the 49ers have an amazing chance to win this game, which I believe that they will. And that's the good part, is that you don't necessarily need like crazy games from Jimmy Garoppolo for this team to succeed. All he needs to do is not turn the ball over like that. And we all knew we were going to get one of those. That's it, right? It should be the number is 1. And you always want to go under 1, never over 1. You can push it 1. That's it. Push it 1. But that's the thing, is it's tough for 49ers fans because a lot of the anxiety that's built up on game day has little to do with what we know about on defense, what we know about the running game. It's just what Jimmy Garoppolo is going to show up. And the way that game started, he was fine. He was moving the ball. He made some really nice throws. And then you have the second half where, I guess he was injured. But now look at the polar opposites. And I've never seen a quarterback go through these like phases in each game. So it's just that, man. Like Jimmy is who he is at this point, and that's it. And again, I don't know why that comes off as a hater like statement. Jimmy is who he is, and he's fine. He's a fine quarterback, and that's it, man. Like I don't know how that's a problem. I don't know why that gets met with such, well, you're hating, or well, you're overpraising him. Like the Jimmy haters and the people who stand for Jimmy, here Jimmy stands, he's fine. Jimmy haters, he's fine. Can you guys just come together now at this point since you agree? Everybody agrees. Why are you guys
Everyone
arguing?
agrees.
Everyone agrees in their
Everyone
own
agrees.
way. Everyone agrees in their own way. Jimmy's fine. But yet you still have these people yelling at each other this entire time. And look, when the game was over, I didn't want to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo because they won the game. So I jump on my post game, we pop that bottle and we there talking crazy, like, and just having fun, right? And then you get to the other stuff, but you can't have a second half performance like that this week against the Green Bay Packers because you're not going to finish this game off that way. You just won't win this game because they're not the same as Dallas. But if the 49ers get efficient Jimmy or even good Jimmy in this game, then their likelihood of winning this game increases tenfold. Even the home opener. Remember the home opener? The home opener against these same very Packers. Throws the ball, fumbles the ball, like behind himself. The first few quarters, things are not rolling. And then gotta have it. Last drive, boom, 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 touchdown. Okay, he left too much time on the clock. They didn't get it done. But that's the Jimmy Garoppolo roller coaster. And that's what it is. And it's not an opinion. It is as consistent as gravity. Jimmy goes like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why that's a point of argument. It's not an opinion. That's objective. That is objective. And if he has one of those games like Atlanta where he's like this, then the Packers are in deep trouble. So there's your good news, 49ers fans. He just can't play as poorly as he did in the second half against Dallas, and I don't think that he will.
Absolutely. And I think if we were to, start looking at it from kind of like an evaluation standpoint and starting to kind of look at the traits and everything, when you're looking at Jimmy Garoppolo's physical traits and physical tools, yes, does he kind of struggle a little bit with the deeper passes and things like that? He does. But overall, when you look at the way he's able to, he had some throws. Like when I was watching the tape, he would just whip it out. And I even saw a thing where he even shortened his throwing motion because it was a short in breaking route. And it flew out of his hand and it just whipped out. And I'm like, that was elite. Like the way he was able to the amount of time it took to get through the throwing motion and get the ball out with accuracy. I was like, damn, that's crazy. That's not the problem. The problem with Jimmy Garoppolo is the consistency. It's, that's the measure of great players. Like you can be elites from a traits standpoint, but if you can't put it together consistently and play mistake-free football, then it's kind of a dual-edged sword, right? It's like, well, you're good, you have the ability, you're capable, you show that you're capable, but the roller coaster, you mentioned it, the ups and the downs, and that's just the biggest thing. Because when we see efficient, good Jimmy Garoppolo, he looks like not great, but he looks like a really good quarterback. And he's able to execute the offense, the play actions, the boots. I mean, there's been a couple plays where the last 2 weeks in a row, he's getting rocked while he's throwing the football, and he's able to complete the passes. Yeah.
He's tough.
Like, so with Jimmy, when it's like if we're really going to evaluate Jimmy, it's a mental thing. Like someone brought this up and they said it in the comments on one of my Instagram posts. It was just kind of like a whatever kind of throwaway comment, but he brought up the idea of Jimmy Garoppolo having ADHD. And I was like, that's hilarious because I'm a big ADHD guy. I have ADHD. I've struggled with consistency throughout my life because of my ADHD, how you process multiple things super fast. And you're just like, oh, I just got to pick one. And sometimes you land on the wrong one. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because that kind of feels like what happens to Jimmy sometimes. There's so many ranges of outcomes of how to read the defense or whatever. And it just feels like sometimes he just is like, I'm going to do this. And he just does it. Just does it. And it doesn't work. And sometimes we see those bad picks. And so with Jimmy, it's just about being consistent. That's it. Efficient Jimmy, good Jimmy. He's capable. He's more than capable. We've seen it time and time again. It's just how consistent can he play? Obviously, the two throws that stick out a lot are the one to Brandon Aiyuk, where Aiyuk just dusted Diggs, like insanely routed him. And we know, right, if he completes that pass, the game's pretty much taken care of, right?
It's a dub, I think, right there. And it's funny, too, because yesterday I went on a Buffalo Bills podcast with 49er legend and Bills legend, Boobie Dixon. And they brought us on there so we could talk about the 49ers and the Bills, right? Like to crossover and everything. But I expressed a similar sentiment to Boobie about, well, this is exactly the time where Jimmy's going to have one of these great games because everyone's leaving him for dead. And this is exactly what Boobie said. And it had me dying when he said this. He goes, yeah, I'm going to make sure to tweet at Jimmy this week. Be like, man, you trashed this week. He was like, just to give us some extra motivation. Like,
just to get him going. I mean, it's kind of true. Like, again, we talk about mental consistency. Like, you get pumped up a little bit, you get feeling a little high. Sometimes when your back's against the wall, your instincts kick in, right?
Yeah, and when you see people saying that you can't do something, that like, there's nothing I enjoy in this world than proving someone wrong. So Yeah, I like it, but yeah, Booby was really funny about that, bro. Yeah, anybody who get a chance to see it, if you didn't get to watch it, it's not on my channel. It's on the Code of Conduct channel, which is the Buffalo Rumblings portion of SB Nation. But yeah, it was with Jay Spence. Jordan was on there, and me and Booby Dixon. We got to ask him some questions about the 49ers. He expressed that his favorite 49ers team to be a part of was the team that played Baltimore in the Super Bowl. And I also asked the question, how much of his influence went into Tony Montana being the song for the kickoff team. And he actually said it was Blake Costanzo and other guys who pushed for that song. Yeah, that nice little nugget there. So I was glad to, I like that. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's a good little piece into some 49ers history. Speaking of 49ers history, San Francisco 49ers got the Green Bay Packers coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We know what the situation is based on the 2019 NFC Championship. We know what the situation was in that game earlier in 2019 where the 49ers just throttled them twice in 1 year. Obviously, you and I were at Levi's together.
My favorite moment of the year, no matter what.
The Green Bay Packers and that wild-ass game that came down to the wire where Jimmy Garoppolo almost engineered one of his legendary comebacks after, we saw bad Jimmy very often in that first half. But we saw this. Yeah, we saw Trey Lance. We saw the spark from Trenton Cannon right before halftime. They were able to get points on the board. That was actually a Trey Lance touchdown. But Jimmy Garoppolo was able to come back. And actually, we talked about it a little earlier. He led potentially the game-winning drive. Just kept a little too much time on the clock. What are you looking at in regards to the matchup coming up between Green Bay from just like an overview type perspective?
Well, I'm gonna look at this overly optimistic, and for a few reasons. The 49ers lost by a field goal in a game that they largely didn't play well for the first 3 quarters, right? Who didn't play in that game? Elijah Mitchell, Juwan Jennings wasn't playing. Mohamed Sanu was a starter. Alex Mack was struggling in that game. Kenny Clark was beating him.
Kenny Clark's one of the best interior defensive tackles in this league.
But Alex Mack's playing very well. But Alex Mack's playing very well. But Alex Mack's playing very well now. So my point is that right now, these are 2 different teams in 2 different spots now. Yes. Now, you have the best cornerback position group that you've had pretty much all season with the way that Ambry Thomas has come on. Shout out to him and Emmanuel Mosley. Now, if you get Fred Warner and Bosa back, now it really starts to become more of a, okay, we played you really close this one time with everything going wrong, with Trey Sermon starting.
No running game.
Not working as well, with some miscues on the 49ers end and turning the ball over. And now this is a completely different team in a completely different spot right now. So the overly optimistic way to look at it is the 49ers play their game and they can't be beat. And the only team that can really beat the 49ers is themselves. And that's it. Aiyuk wasn't even playing that well. Right, exactly. No Elijah Mitchell, exactly. So, again, you're in a different spot now. To look at that game and just say, oh, well, they've done this. No. They're not the same team right now. They're not the same team right now. They're not facing the same team. That same team's not across from them. D'Amico Ryans is better at his job now, right? Like, Devontae Adams didn't even really kill them in that game like that. It was at the end of the game that he had those things, right? Like those catches, but he didn't kill them. Like, it wasn't like he was just destroying like he does against the Vikings where he goes 11 for 130 and a touch. That wasn't what was happening, right, in that game. And they were so close to winning that game. Now you're talking about a game where weather's going to be a factor. Who's going to be tougher? Who's going to be more physical? Again, the 49ers are going to be more physical. And the Packers still have that trait in them that's there. Punch them in the mouth and go ahead and watch them fold up. I'm going to keep saying it just like I did with the Rams and the Cowboys. And maybe there is no team that is physical like the 49ers. But when the tough gets going and you start to put points up on them, make them come back and make them see that they still want it. Because sometimes Aaron Rodgers just be like, I don't care. I'm going home, bro. Like, I'm good here. Like, we lost, whatever. I don't care. He really doesn't care like that, it seems like. So, again, all of those things, when you put it together, as long as Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't turn the ball over, as long as you're not committing turnovers, and if you're eating the clock and you're able to run the ball, there's not a team out there that can really beat you. So the Packers don't want this. They don't want this game, right? Like, they still are the number 1 seed. We get it. Show some respect. Aaron Rodgers is probably the MVP of the league. But at the same time, matchups, and it doesn't work for them right now at this point, especially because this team is in a spot that they were not in week 3. They're ascending, and they're completely they're the way their rotations are completely different at this point. Add in Warner and Bosa, and the 49ers have a good shot as anybody to move on to the NFC Championship this weekend.
Absolutely. And do you think the emergence and because one of the things that I keyed on from watching week 3 is it felt like the defense, the Green Bay Packers defense, that is, knew exactly what the 49ers were throwing at them almost on every turn. And I think part of that had to do with Trey Sermon running the rock and getting his first career start in a moment when Trey Sermon just wasn't ready. And let's be honest, he hasn't been ready all year. And it's partly why he hasn't really seen the field at all, really, since that game. We've seen him in spots, but just really a lot of Elijah Mitchell. And of course, now Deebo Samuel in the backfield, and this kind of revived running game with the scheme, the way they're scheming it up right now, Jason. It's just a lot of fun to watch. Do you think that could be a difference maker in this game? Again, one of the keys that you just talked about, playing keep away, right? Run the ball, get third down conversions, and just churn it out. That way you keep Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones on the sideline. Do you think that could be a big-time factor and something they're going to try to execute?
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to win this game throwing the ball 8 times. So
That's true.
The 49ers are going to win this game, but they're not going to win it in some go-away fashion like they did in 2019. So Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to throw the ball, and he's going to have to make key conversions. The guy who I'm predicting to have a big game this week is George Kittle. And I expect them to get him lined up on their linebackers and take advantage of that and still let Jimmy live where he wants to live in the middle of the field. You know, Kittle has been contributing in other ways. We know that he does that, but I feel like this is the week that they're going to use him. And Kyle maybe has been holding on to some plays that he's about to unleash in this game. He knows his defense. He knows how to attack it. And I just think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to throw the ball. You want to have him in that 17 to 23, 24 attempt range. That would be optimal, ideal, right? I mean, it's not always typical, because if you're only throwing the ball 17, 23 times, that means you're running it 30, 40 times. And if you're running it 40 times, it's probably because you're winning the game. But he's going to have to make several throws in this game. And I think that him and George Kittle are going to have a very big game this week, especially when you think about, you know, Jair Alexander's back. He had an interception in week 3 on an insane play where he ran from the other side of the field it was a good read by Jimmy. He let it rip, and just credits to the guy. He made a better play. And one more thing that the Packers have going for them, it looks like David Bakhtiari is going to play in this game. And when you think about it, how we were evaluating that first game, we said, oh, no Bakhtiari. They got and they were down. Jenkins didn't even play in that game. They were like, Bosa's about to feast. Well, they did a great job of chipping. And the only concern that I have is the quick game, the passing game. If Rodgers is able to get the ball out fast, like he is, because he's great pre-snap and he knows where he wants to go with it and neutralize that pass rush, then things will get a little bit more hairy at this point. So watch the screen game, watch the quick game, because I believe in that game he was getting the ball out 2.3 seconds, which was the fastest of the year. So he knew exactly what it was. Like, our offensive line is not in good shape right now, but we're not going to sit back there and just try to call deep routes, and I'm going to try to pick them apart from underneath. So a lot of things to watch for. But if the 49ers are able to execute on drives, not turn the ball over, and Jimmy's able to convert and make throws when they need him to, this is going to be an extremely hard team to beat. And I just think that all those things are going to happen this week. And I just think that George Kittle is going to have a big game.
Absolutely. And something that you touched on was, you know, it's a different team. It's a different offense, different personnel, the way everyone's moving and working together. Brandon Aiyuk just said this right now at the podium when talking about the difference between week 3 and playing them today. And from Brandon Aiyuk said, quote, everything feels a lot different, looks a lot different. The whole offensive unit looks a lot better. We move as one, which I think is the key statement there. That growth has been crazy to watch. So I think the 49ers really feel like, you know, based on where they were at week 3, the offseason noise, and they've talked about how disjointed like that whole situation was. Like, it does feel like this is going to be a little bit of a different matchup, right? Like, it's going to be a little bit more, maybe closer, like, to that 2019 vibe than the week 3 vibe. Like, it does feel like this is going to be a different team going in there. And they're probably going to have a little something to prove. Again, you talked about that a little bit, like, hey, you can't beat me, you can't do this at our house, you can't do that. That's something to prove to some people, right?
Yep, absolutely. And you know that this is on their mind, and you know LaFleur wants to get this done because he's tired of being little bro too. You know, like I know they won that game, but you know that's how excited Aaron Rodgers and him and LaFleur was after that game, is because they were so tired of it all and hearing that. So yeah, they're definitely a different team that you're seeing in week 3. Just like they're gonna have guys back that they didn't have in week 3, but the 49ers stylistically and this game kind of lines up closer to that 2019 game where if the 49ers get turnovers, in this game, then it gets really scary for the Packers at this point, because Rodgers never turns the ball over like that. Like, he doesn't make bad decisions. But Manuel Mosley had an interception in that 2019 NFC Championship game. I believe there was a fumble that they lost. If they even think about turning the ball over in this game, the 49ers have to capitalize, and that's going to put them in a spot that they don't want to be in. So there's pressure on the Packers too. To get this done in front of the home fans, but they also know 1 or 2 mistakes, and you might be staring down the barrel of going home or staying home right away and just showing up for the playoffs for one game.
Do you think the Packers fans are a little bit nervous that they could be watching Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers' last game as a Packer?
I mean, I'm sure they're nervous about that, but you know, a lot of that stuff is kind of settled, and I feel like Aaron Rodgers isn't exactly trying to get out as quickly as maybe they thought. Like, a lot of that stuff is fine at this point. I
Mhm.
mean, he's having a great year, and you know, and if I'm Devontae Adams, I know a lot of 49er fans want him over here, and why wouldn't they? He's the best wide receiver in the league. But if I'm Devontae Adams, and even if I was from California, if I had a chance to stay with a guy who I'm on the same page with, who throws lasers at me all the time in the right spot, I might just stick it out with that guy for a little while longer, just so I can put up some stats, because that connection that those two have is incredible. Like, it's like they share one brain. Like, he throws it before he even looks, and he knows exactly where to put his hands. And it's just the talent with the arm and the understanding of how to run routes and where the spots are to get to and where he needs to be for Rodgers. It's unparalleled in terms of rapport between those two.
Absolutely. What do you think D'Amico Ryans and the defense is going to have to do to slow those guys down
I
on the
mean,
offensive side?
it won't be some sort of bracket coverage, because it doesn't seem like that's what they've been doing, especially in the Bengals game. I think they'll run a lot more zones. But here's the thing: if you're not getting to Aaron Rodgers with zones, he's going to pick all that apart. You can't allow him to sit there and pick your zones apart, because zones do have spots where you can't cover everywhere. That's why it's a zone, right? Like, and when you run man, you've got the issue of putting whoever it is in the unenviable spot of trying to guard Davante Adams one-on-one, and that's not easy for anyone. So I wouldn't want that for Ambry Thomas. I wouldn't want that for Emmanuel Mosley. But it all depends on pass rush. If pass rush is getting there, then you can run your zones. You can confuse a little bit more. Maybe you drop some robbers in and try to hide guys and just move them out at the right time. So it really boils down to pass rush. If pass rush can get there, if you can, and this is the way to beat every quarterback. But Aaron Rodgers specifically, if you're getting in his face and hitting him, that's the way to disrupt his timing, and he doesn't necessarily like that. I mean, I can't imagine that any quarterback does, but in particular, Aaron Rodgers struggles when you're in his lap all the time.
Absolutely. Let's get the chat involved. I want to know from the chat, what are your guys' score predictions for 49ers versus Green Bay Packers this week? What kind of game do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be a low-scoring game, high-scoring game? I want to see your score predictions in the chat. Drop them in the chat. We'll pull them up on the screen. But what type of game do you think it's going to be, Jason? Do you think it's going to be high-scoring, low-scoring? What are some of the ranges of outcomes that you're kind of processing right now?
I'd say low scoring. And what I mean by that is probably we're going to have ourselves like a 27-24 game. And that doesn't seem low scoring. But what I mean by that is that this one's going to be a heavyweight fight. Punches are going to be thrown back and forth. The 49ers are going to have to respond to scoring drives from the Packers. I wouldn't suspect that they're going to, shut them out. But the 49ers have the formula to get it done on the road, to get it done in cold. Jimmy Garoppolo is from Chicago, where it's cold. So I'm not really too worried about that. But I got the 49ers winning this one 27-24, around there. And it's going to either come down to who makes one more defensive stand or who needs to have it at the end of the game. And I just feel that the 49ers present so many matchup problems for the Packers. And that's why Michael Irvin didn't want it for the Cowboys. He knew what was coming. And I think that that's kind of like the overarching theme right now is how problematic this team is and the matchups they present because of their physicality and their way to run the ball. And if they're able to run the ball a ton on you, then you're in deep trouble because you're not going to see the ball for a long time. And they're just going to punish your defense and weigh you down mentally.
Absolutely. I'm kind of feeling like it's going to be more on the lower end. I mean, obviously it feels like when we watch the 49ers win games, they're scoring 30 points, right? Like it just feels like that's what it's been as of late, but it does feel like this game, especially being on the road, a lot of people making stuff about the weather. Who knows if that is even going to be a factor? It will be cold, but it does feel like for me, it could end up in the like 21 versus 17, 21 versus 20 area. Again, I think it's going to be another tight game. I wouldn't expect anything less from the 49ers at this point. It's probably going to be a game where we are on the edge of our seats the entire time. The Niners wouldn't do it any other way. We've seen them try to go out and handle games, especially like what we saw against Dallas. They could have put them away early, but they like to keep teams around and kind of like make things interesting. So we're gonna find out, though. We are absolutely gonna find out. Jason, tell the good people here where they can find more of your content and where to follow you.
Yep, at Jason Aponte 2103 on Twitter, Jason Aponte on YouTube. If you're here for the first time, if you're not, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. We go live right after the game. Sounds like we'll probably have another post game, and the 49ers get to play one of the first games of the weekend, or the second game of the day, but of the weekend, right? So they get the second game. So a pregame was really good on Saturday, so maybe we'll do the same thing earlier on, maybe before the game starts. That sounds fun. Yes. And today, I think I'm on someone else's podcast, the We're Talking Football podcast. Tomorrow, I'm on with everybody's favorite Grant, and I'm sure he has plenty of great questions to ask me about Jimmy Garoppolo that are fair and down the line and do not push people's buttons. And Friday, we'll do a sprint right option and probably just a hangout show at the end, man, because this is a fun time and we're blessed, man. We're blessed. The 49ers have won a playoff game with a chance to win another one in front of them, and we get to talk about them, man. What a season. And of course, every game can never be easy, right? It always has to be like that. So it always has to be down to the wire. And why shouldn't it change from the way that the 49ers have behaved this whole season?
Absolutely. And we shout out Warren, man. He said he put a like on both channels. We appreciate that. Anyone else who does that, we appreciate that as always. Obviously, Jason and I will be back with another State of the Franchise, win or lose. But of course, we are hoping for a victory. Appreciate everyone who tapped in with us today. Big game this week, goes without saying. So really excited to see what this week turns into, what the game looks like on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, follow Jason on social media. You follow me as well. Hit all that good stuff. We do appreciate all the interaction, especially in the chat. You guys were on fire today. We appreciate it. So we'll see you guys next Wednesday, same time for the State of the Franchise episode. Hopefully talking about going to the NFC Championship, but we're not going to hold our breaths either. It's going to be an interesting game. So until then, Jason, you have a good rest of your day. Same with everyone in the chat.